They're like, I just need more leads and my business will scale. Like it's very hard to get a founder to be like, no, you need help closing the fucking deals that you already have.
Yep.
So what made you say, hey, I need help with this?
I think I looked at it. I looked at the data. I looked at
Yeah.
the data. And at the time when we were still trying to figure marketing out and being able to scale, we didn't have all the leads that we wanted. So I can easily say I need more leads, but that wouldn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
But I had leads in front of me. I just wasn't closing at a higher level.
Yeah.
If you're not closing 100% of your deals, not everyone will, but there's room to grow.
Yeah.
So I think I recognize if I can convert more of the leads that I already have, that's much closer to revenue than having to solve for marketing to get more leads, which ultimately will have the same problem down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I recognize that this was the opportunity.
You're rigorous, like you're incredibly meticulous with your data tracking. And I think like a lot of founders need to improve on that because then you can solve your problems quicker.
Yep.
When you did join up, what were you averaging in terms of monthly revenue?
When I joined up, I was probably averaging around 30 to 35 per
Right.
month in revenue.
And that was what, in the summer, and I think November was your biggest month?
November was my biggest month. I would say within 45 days of joining the community, we went from 35,000 to 55,000 a month.
Badass.
And then within 90 days of joining the community, we're at about 85,000, 75 to $85,000 a month.
Badass. So it was like a 3X. Okay. And it's cool because like as a founder, right, like sales, at least when I train founders, it's like learning how to close gives them the confidence to spend more in ads and then grow the marketing funnel.
Absolutely.
What was like your experience during that?
It was exactly the same. I think, one of the biggest bottlenecks when it comes to increasing spend is how can you actually be able to intake all that traffic? Meaning, let's say I 3X my ad spend tomorrow. Why can't I expect 3X the result? It's because I know that if I get 3 times the booking this week, I wouldn't have enough people to actually be able to fulfill on those calls.
Yeah.
So understanding sales systems, understanding sales psychology gives you the confidence to increase spend and take more risk on advertising side. And I would say 90% of all business problems comes from advertising, but just because it comes from advertising doesn't mean that it is a marketing problem. Oftentimes your ads are doing just fine, but you're not seeing the ROAS because you're not actually closing the deal. You're not actually getting the dollar across. So I would say marketing and sales is actually intertwined, but sales is a lot harder to drill.
Yeah.
So people just hide behind that it's a marketing problem.
Yes.
Right?
It's harder to drill. Yeah.
So then the question becomes, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich?
Dude, I gotta write that down. So you got to about 75 to 85, and was that after you brought on the setter?
It was after I brought on the setter.
Okay. And so what did like knowing how to then close, right? How did that then help you like start leading a sales team essentially?
Yeah. So to answer that question, we'll kind of start with those figures, right? 35 to 55,000 a month happened just by increasing my close rate from 30% to 60%.
Yeah.
No increase in more deals, just more yeses.
Yeah.
From 55 to 75,000, that's where we had to hire, right? That was all about systems and teams.
Yeah.
Now I've done sales by myself for my business my entire career. So to alleviate that responsibility and bring in someone new comes in two folds. A, how do I find that person?
Yeah.
And B, how do I train that person?
Yeah.
Luckily, Andrés was able to help me with both. Through his own incredible network of people who know, like, and trust him, he was able to find me the perfect candidate who we were able to onboard within 14 days. Immediately, I plugged him into the same resource that I had access to that made me badass, which is Cafe for Closers.
Yes, sir.
And immediately, he was onboarded, he had confidence, but more importantly, he had a sense of community. He knew that he wasn't the only one dealing with rejections, objections, no-shows. He had people he could speak with. And as a result, he showed up better for the business, which gave us the room to be able to crank and grow.
Yeah, it's badass. I guess on that note, like too, like one thing Kevin talked about is like from 30 to 55, you're doing your own sales, like founder-led sales.
Yep.
And I think what I saw as your coach was like, dude, your ability to just practice and drill like daily. Because as a founder, you have so many things all the time, fires to put out every single day.
Yeah.
And to still make time for a 30-minute practice session, which is what it takes with sales in the beginning, right? Because otherwise, as a founder, like founders don't realize this, right? Is that if you're not practicing, then when you finally have a lead and your lead flow isn't that like consistent, all of a sudden, like you're practicing things that maybe you know in theory, but now you have an $8,000 deal on the line and you just drop the ball. And then like the negative cycle of like questioning yourself and confidence issues happen. On the flip side now, like you've now grown, now you're testing 2 setters out.
Yep.
And your hiring process is, I think, exactly what setters should be going through. Why did you decide, or if you want to talk a little bit about what you put your setters through and why you decided to do that?
Yeah. So